There is a book called The Spy Left Behind by a gentleman named Michael Pilar, and that deals with probably what I think is one of the greatest treacheries Rick might have done. There was one of our CIA station chiefs in Tbilisi in the Republic of Georgia. He was murdered, and I apologize, but I'm drawing a blank on the year now, but and we had always wondered if there was a connection between his murder, assassination, and Rick's treachery. After I got off the Ames case, after the arrest and everything was over with except the hot wash, which is where we do our debriefs, I was reassigned to a terrorist squad and asked to take a look at the case of Freddie Woodruff, the CIA chief of station. And they said, do you see any connections between this case and the Rick Ames case? And I said, oh yeah, I see a lot of connections. So then I was made the lead investigator or the case agent on Freddie's case. I went to Georgia several times and worked with some Georgian law enforcement officials and some Georgian intelligence officials. We were stonewalled by most. Some were reasonably cooperative up to the level of information they knew. Others, I believe, wanted to give us information but were afraid to do so. But yes, sir, I traveled both to Azerbaijan and to Soviet Georgia several times during that time frame. We never proved that case to anyone's satisfaction because, well, number one, we couldn't get him over here, the person that I think killed him, to try him in a U.S. court of law, and I think he was pretty well set up by the Georgian government, but he committed the murder, in my opinion, on behalf of the Russian government. And I can put you together a real solid case on paper that will lead to that conclusion. Where my taxi driver, who the embassy had hired him to just drive me anywhere I wanted to go while I was there, and I had an appointment with the Minister of Intelligence in Georgia, in Tbilisi, and when my driver was taking me to the headquarters, and he stopped several blocks away, and it was a straight shot walk, but he said, that's where you need to go. And I said, well, can you not take me there? And he said, no. He said, I'm not going anywhere close to that building because people go in there and they don't come out. So I thanked him, got out and walked to the building. I was met at a huge black iron gate by a guy who slid the shield back, asked me who I was, what I wanted. I identified myself with my FBI badge, told him who I was and who I was there to speak to, and he told me to wait, and I did for what seemed like quite a long time. I'm sure it wasn't but maybe 30 seconds, and then a group of Spetsnaz soldiers came out to get me. And I know they were Spetsnaz from the uniforms they had and the blue and white striped shirts, and they walked me into where the meeting was going to be, but instead of taking me into the room, they walked me down to a small, just a little bitty room. It had a table and 2 chairs in it, and they left me in there and told me to wait, and so I went in and I sat down. This was done purely to intimidate me before my meeting with the minister, to soften me up, so to speak. Well, it worked very well. I was pretty much intimidated. And the point that really got me, though, was when I heard the soldiers coming back down the hall. I heard the boots on the floor, and they got outside my door, or in the vicinity of my door, and just stopped. And no one said anything, no one knocked on the door, no one tried to open the door. And I can remember thinking at the time, well, this is how it ends. I'm not going to see my daughter again. I'm not going to see my wife again. My son hadn't been born yet. I said, I'll never see my family again, and no one's going to know what happened. I'm just going to disappear. The Georgian government will make a huge protest that they don't know what happened to me. They might even arrest a couple people and try them for my disappearance, but they're going to say, we have made a massive effort to find him, and we can't. He's just gone. And on that day, I really thought that I probably was not going to survive. And I was afraid, yes, sir. I think I was by myself a couple of times, but the majority of the time, well, I wasn't by myself because I was always working hand in hand with the CIA chief of station and the deputy chief of station in every country that I went to. Most of the time, I believe there were always 2 other agents that accompanied me on these trips. One who spoke fluent Russian, and the other one was, he was a polygrapher, but that skill set of being a polygrapher, he could sit in a room and tell if somebody was feeding us a lie or not. There may have been a couple times when I was not accompanied, but usually there would be the three of us.
Where is he?
I'm not sure. The last I heard, he was in Kildare, Pennsylvania at a maximum facility up there. I don't know where he is now because I just completely lost touch with him.